Hi. I wasn't going to record today, but I had some cancellations, so I'm going to try and we'll see if I get it edited in time. We are still in the first section of this book, and we are looking at places we go when things are uncertain or too much. And we have talked about stress and created a body map. We have talked about overwhelm, created a collage, and now today is the big one, which is anxiety. And as I said before, super prevalent in today's culture and society. And so, yes, it might be good to understand where it comes from, and also just to know that it could be like a personal experience that someone has had and they are recovering from that experience. Could be that there's a chemical alteration and medication might be helpful. And there could be the systemic piece of just the pressure that is put on us all in society to just kind of maintain, go to work, make the money, all the things that that are kind of subconsciously and sometimes consciously put on us. So anxiety is a huge one. And I'm going to just start. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I can scan it and maybe put it up on the Facebook group because it's pretty long. And I guess there's a reason for that, right? She has an image by Liz Gilbert that says, "You are afraid of surrender because you don't want to lose control, but you never had control. All you had was anxiety." So the American Psychological Association defines anxiety as an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, physical changes like increased blood pressure. Anxiety can be both a state and a trait. To better understand this, let's get clear on what these terms mean. The best explanation I've come across is from the Oxford Review Encyclopedia of Terms. Here's how they explain it. Trait versus state. Trait is considered to be something that's part of an individual's personality and therefore a long-term characteristic of an individual that shows through their behavior, actions, and feelings. It is seen as being a characteristic, feature, or quality of an individual. For example, someone who says, "I'm a confident person," or "I am just an anxious person," is stating that these attributes are part of who they are. A state, on the other hand, is a temporary condition that they are experiencing for a short period of time. After the state is passed, they will return to another condition. For example, someone who says, "I'm feeling quite confident about this interview," or "I feel nervous about doing this," is describing states. I loved their closing sentence, which may be the understatement of the decade. However, working out what is really a trait and what is a state can often be difficult and is the content of much scientific argument at times. So I want to pause there and have you think about that idea of anxiety. And in your own life, do you feel like it is a trait, like I've just always felt anxious, or when I reached this age in my life, or when I moved here, or I started this job, I noticed an increase of anxiety? And then I want you to think about the difference between the trait and the state. Are there times instead that you feel anxious and then you work through it, it goes away, but it's temporary and you can kind of note the difference? So those are really interesting things to think about when we think about anxiety and other emotions, but specific to anxiety because, again, it's so prevalent in our society. When we say that anxiety can both be a state and a trait, it means that some of us feel anxious mainly in response to certain situations, while some of us can be naturally more predisposed to anxiety than others. Generalized anxiety disorder is different from both trait and state anxiety, according to Johns Hopkins Medicine. Generalized anxiety disorder is a condition of excessive worry about everyday issues and situations. It lasts longer than 6 months, and in addition to feeling worried, you may also feel restless, fatigue, trouble concentrating, irritability, increased muscle tension, and trouble sleeping. approximately 1/3 of US adults will be affected by an anxiety disorder in their lifetime. However, it's estimated that fewer than half of people with diagnosable anxiety disorders seek any type of professional treatment. It's very difficult to work through an anxiety disorder without professional help. All right, so we're going to stop there for today. And then she moves on into talking a bit about worry and avoidance as coping strategies for anxiety, and then also anxiety and excitement and how they can sometimes feel the same, and how might we differentiate between the two. So on that note, I want us to do some art making around what does anxiety feel like and what does excitement feel like. So I was going to use this clay, which is oil-based clay, thinking about the idea of using it on canvas to represent the different feelings of anxiety and excitement. But then I started just using a Sharpie and it kind of made more sense. I ended up just using this canvas panel and a Sharpie. And even as I was making these different lines to express emotion, I was noticing the sound that the Sharpie was making, and it like felt like anxiety versus this idea of excitement, which feels more like contained and like it's kind of like bubbling up and getting bigger and bigger. So to me, those are the two differences between anxiety and excitement. Anxiety can sometimes feel like it's overflowing in ways that we can't control, and it's an unpleasant feeling. It feels a little bit like nails on a chalkboard, whereas excitement is a little bit more contained. However, it's the same in that it kind of bubbles up and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, just more bubbly, you know, like champagne bubbles or something. Those are the two differences that I'm noticing right now. I hope that you're tracking, you're learning a bit more about emotions and about yourself through this series. I will see you soon.